everyone, and welcome to the Grumpy Pony podcast. So in this episode, I was absolutely chuffed to get Ronnie from Mantic Games to come on and speak to me. Now, that is huge because, Ronnie, he's a busy man. He's got things he needs to do. So if you don't know who he is the CEO of Mantic Games. So, he took the time to come and speak to me, and we got a good opportunity to talk about Kings of War, Armada, Mantic as a business, how he's been during lockdown, and it was just a great chat all round. I really enjoyed it, and we did have a little bit of a technical issue just towards the end of the podcast, so you might find just at the end it just drops out a little bit, so hopefully it doesn't affect it too much, but I really hope you enjoy this one. As always, this is an absolute pleasure to make. I'm really enjoying doing these podcasts and meeting such great people, and the people that are taking the time to talk to me. I can't thank them all enough. So thanks again for subscribing, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay. Hi, Ronnie. Thanks so much for joining this podcast with me and agreeing to sit down and have a chat.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks very much. Right. So first and foremost, I just want to get it out of the way. Obviously, it's the pandemic at the moment. So lockdown, we're not able to do things how we want to do them. How have you been sort of personally with it? And how's Mantic doing in the podcast in the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean personally, and we've done pretty well as can be expected. In some ways, I can, and the most important thing is that Mantic managed to stay open. We looked at what was going on. We've got a very big offices and premises. And last year, before it all started, I'd been travelling, and I'd seen that, and we'd also been trying to bring stuff in from China to deliver a Kickstarter. So I realised there was something pretty serious going on. So just a couple of weeks before it all started, we actually set up so everybody could work from home. Work from home.
So you're sort of ahead of the game there.
Yeah, a little bit. Not blowing on trumpet. It's just you could tell what was going on. I thought, well, we don't need them in. Let's get them set up. Obviously, not expecting what was actually going to happen and the size of it. But I just thought, well, if we get half the people out, we've halved our risk, haven't we?
Yeah.
And then I think it was really important during lockdown that people have things to enjoy and do and interact. And so we were fortunate enough. I checked the small print of the law very clearly, and it just said if you're an online business, not only can you stay open, we want you to. Yeah. So we could set up. We have 16,000 square foot, and we had about 6 staff in there. So we did everything. We set it all up. Rob was working from home. We gave away lots of free rules. Just tried to keep morale up and getting people engaged and getting on with it, because we were stuck at home. So there was kind of that. Well, the time you wanted to do that hobby project.
Yeah.
Even if you're working, there's no commute time, there's no going and seeing customers, there's no travel work. So, I did a huge big Kings of War battle that I'd wanted to do for ages. So I got all the terrain ready for that. I took it all home from the office and tarted it up. And, I'm still now finishing some of the units off from it a year later. But, I think we trundled on through. And I think being able to stay open and stay engaged while people were at home was both appreciated, and it took our mind off it. So in some ways, for me, coming back to the question, it's not that different.
Yeah.
I think we're really missing retail store visits, really missing the shows now. I think, tournament scene, we lost the Clash of Kings, we've lost our second Adepticon now. We're going to lose our second Salute. So not getting out and seeing the community, getting out and meeting people, getting new people to try our games, that's starting to take a toll. But at the same time, we're doing a lot through the internet. People have responded admirably, and we're all kind of getting on with it. There's been some universal battles where people are playing Kings of War online. It's not the same, but the community still gets to chat. You try to practice your new army, so you know what to paint and what to add to it.
Yeah, so, speaking of, like when we went into the first lockdown, I played a couple of games of Kings of War, and I've got I call them the Badger Riding Dwarf Army. So it's just pretty much all Brock riders with some spears.
Nice.
but I found out pretty quickly that I get shot to bits. So
Yeah,
my
it
brother
looks
said,
fun, very thematic. Problem with thematic armies is they usually get battered because the rules committee have made it so that actually things are fairly balanced.
yeah, yeah. So so it was a good chance for me to actually have a look and say, okay, this is what I want to add. So I've got some gunners coming in. I think they're going to be added to that army. So hopefully by the time that's done, Kings of War, I think people watching that progress of me doing that through the first lockdown, I think actually got a lot of people into it.
Yes, no, there has been, and I think it's now getting people to get from there into giving it an actual try. That's the next step, isn't it? You've had a bit of time. You may have rebased your old army or painted a new one, picked one up and done it. But then you actually want to get it on the gaming table and have a game of it.
That's it. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've had a few, because I do a click and collect service and things like that. So I get a chance to speak to people every now and again about how they're doing and what they're up to, and a few people have said they've tried sort of playing online, like digital versions of games and things, but it's just not the same because you don't have that sort of social part. And for me, this hobby gaming is as much about the social side of it as it is about building and painting as well.
100%. And I think it's okay to try an army out. It's okay to catch up with those US guys that you've heard about from the UK and but it is not. If you're playing this game at this age, it's because you like the social interaction, going down to a tournament, having some beers, chit-chatting. You like the physicality of the soldiers. Sitting here and painting is part of getting ready for that event. It's that's integral. And those other things are fine short-term solutions, but they're not what we got into it for.
That's right. Yeah, like you say, it's a short-term. So you're sticking a plaster on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and now it's a year, since people have been to events. Yeah. It's coming up for a year since they've last had their even friendly competitive PvP game of Kings of War. And one of the things we found in the first lockdown was how many, like in the first one, we did a special offer on The Walking Dead, and lots of people bought it. It made it very cheap, fine. But in actual fact, that's the type of game people said, well, you know what? I could get my partner, I can get my kids to play Walking Dead with me. I play with my 11-year-old, usually get whooped these days. But you could kind of play those games, and it gave you some hobby things to paint, a bit of terrain. However, if you like a good game of Kings of War, if that's your real hobby, if that's your weekend away, you don't play golf, you don't go fishing, you play Kings of War, you don't get that same experience.
Exactly.
From games, and that's the challenge, is that it's getting a long time since we last did our real hobby. What we signed up for.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some sort of really creative ways around it, and actually one thing I did experience, which was really good, was we set up a Dungeon Saga game.
Yeah. Okay. That's how you could play.
Yeah, we just had it sort of remotely. So,
Brilliant.
we had like multiple phones sort of put around it, so you could kind of see close up as possible as we could get it. And then the Dungeon Master was the one who actually had the set, and he was basically moving stuff as we wanted it, and we would do the rolling for our characters. It worked all right. We got a game out of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's also that social. You get a game, you also get to chat, and we overcome it, don't we? It's not what we want to do. We want to get back and the pub and play. But until then, well, at least I was playing a game.
Yeah,
I was having fun and I was playing a game.
Exactly.
And, that's what I think we're really starting to miss.
Yeah.
But we'll all have all of our armies painted, all of our skirmisher units painted, everything. Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. Obviously, Armada's been, well, from what I can see, it's been huge, been well received. I know it certainly was in my shop.
Great.
Really excited about it. And a couple of suggestions of people are saying, could you or will Mantic be creating sort of like a combined campaign sort of set, so you can sort of combine Vanguard, Kings of War, and Armada in some way?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things here. I think the first thing we're definitely going to do is we're going to have a get started with Vanguard kind of live rig setup. So I'm getting these painted. And what we're going to do is the hardest thing to do with a game is the first 3 moves.
Right.
I'm not actually at a game. And there's a lot of people that have now got these boats in, and they just want to sit there and go, just talk me through this first couple of moves. What is the essence of the game? Then we're all veteran gamers. Once you've seen that, it'll be easy because it's not, it ships in water. It's just about that first. So I think that normally is done through your store. People come in, you've got a little demo game set up. There's videos that people have got it at home and met up with their mate and done a video. And after a couple of months of a good game, it's usually half a dozen different videos talking you through those first few steps. We do them ourselves. And while we did it ourselves kind of professionally, we got sometimes just sat there and say, right, idiot playthrough with Ron guide. And I think we're going to try to set one of those up where we'll get Matt to just talk me through the first 2 or 3 moves. And we'll tell everyone, turn up, get your mat out, get your board out, get your ships out, and do it with us. Roll the dice and go through it so that we can all learn those first few steps together. And I think that could be quite good fun. And so I'm going to get that set up. So we're going to do that to get everybody going. I think in the summer, there's probably going to be some more fleets and another book to introduce a few new aspects of layering it up to the next level. And then from then on, very much, I was talking about it the other day, I could really love to see a kind of combined Panithor at War book next summer, where the story touches all of them. There's enough fleets out, there's enough Vanguard factions out, there's Panithor at War, and by land, air, and sea, you have a good ruck, and your army comes along and goes that way.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a desire for that sort of book and rule set for sure. Yeah.
Whether it's scenarios for all 3 at this stage, and then we build it up, or we go straight to But I love the fact that I've got my Dwarf Army, which, as you can see, is blue and green. That's the color scheme. That's the dogs.
Yeah, nice.
I was obviously not finished. And then here's my fleet.
I can just about see him.
It's reverse way. I'm not good with my left and my right. There we go. Again, just mirroring the same color scheme.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of acts of sadness that us hobbyists love. Those acts of little wanton craziness.
Well, that's funny because as soon as I saw him, I was like, well, my dwarf fleet's going to have to be the same colours as my dwarf army.
Yeah, you just have to go there, don't you?
Yeah,
just what we do.
They've got their own navy.
Exactly. Yeah,
badges, but they've got their own
navy. Yes, it is. So, did you know that? Off you go. So, So I think it's nice that they're all set in the same world, and then whatever level. Obviously, the great thing about something like Vanguard and Armada is, 2 box sets, 50 quid. You've got your fleet. A little bit more. You've got your rule book and your dice. But people will lend that to you while you're getting going, and you're playing a game. It doesn't take a lot of time to get that painted up, and you're properly doing the hobby.
Absolutely. I think for things as well like Vanguard, it does sort of then. It's a great sort of intro into what the Kings of War, not only what the models are like, but also the game itself. It sort of teases a little bit as well. So
yeah.
I think there's
in some ways, I think when we first designed it, we thought Vanguard would be even closer to Kings of War. I think set in the same world, but there's quite a difference in terms of the gameplay. But the truth was, we were going to end up compromising Vanguard as a game if you're too slow and movement and stuff. So we said, well, look, make it its own game, make it great fun, but you're still, you paint a few Basileans or you paint a few Night Stalkers and anything. And actually, Martin, who set this up, had never played a war game an army's war game in his life. He'd always played skirmish games.
Yeah.
He's a really good painter. Don't tell him I said that. And he loves painting 8 to 10 figures. So the idea of painting an army horrified him.
Yeah.
Really horrified him. But he got into Vanguard, painted up Basileans, painted this up, painted that up, painted the Night Stalkers. Suddenly I've got all my heroes. If I did 2 regiments, I could. Next thing I know, he's got like 4,000 point Night Stalker army. It was absolutely fantastic. Because he just, got him in there and got him going. And then actually, I can do this. Your models are not 73 pieces, and I don't need to paint my whole army up at, Golden Demon standard, Brush with Death standard. I need to get them painted on the gaming table. You say, yeah, exactly. It's an army game. Paint it as an army, give it a theme, base it up nicely, and it'll look cracking.
Yeah,
and that's manageable.
Yeah, I love the whole multi-basing idea, as well. That you've got each unit has its own little character when you start doing that as well.
For me, that totally changed it. I painted a green and blue Dwarf Army in the past. I've actually put it on grey bases.
Yeah,
and then it's one of the real evolutions that when I realised I'd only ever play Kings of War ever again, which was after the first edition, I had someone paint me an Abyssal Dwarf Army. We'd got the figures in, and I sent it away. I didn't have time to paint at the time, young kids and what have you. And I got it back, but I got him to glue all of the figures to 20mm bases and then stick 20 of them on a regiment base. When I came to do this army, my Dwarf Army this time round, I thought, what a waste. What a waste of an opportunity. And so this time the whole army is on the bases. The base is part of the story.
Yeah.
And when you see it, the 2 things you see that tied together are the colour scheme of the figures and the fact that all the bases tie your army in together. And that thematically, I love it. When I go back and look at my old Dwarf Army, it just doesn't have that same army feel about it.
Yeah.
It's just a bit more disparate. And this really, and I think, you're seeing people now really taking it to the next level. And it's just fantastic to see, people are really great painters coming in and applying their skills to the base, the army, the theme, the schematic, and really enjoying what it gives them. Because, you've got to basically every single unit's a dire armor or a vignette.
Yeah, exactly. And they do. Obviously, I've seen it so many times now where what's on that base is actually telling its own little mini story on its own. So people will be like, oh, they're Night Stalkers, but they're going through like a cornfield, and there's actual scarecrows. They're hiding with the scarecrows and things like that.
Yeah, elves going through that. There's one I've seen where they're going through a kind of autumnal forest with ponds and lakes. Stunning, as one of the just some of the stories that come, some of the Trident Realms one, the Fishmen, great stories that you're now seeing carried into the army base, an army movement tray, and it's great, really great to see.
So as far as Kings of War goes, will you be, or can you actually say or not, but will you be introducing more factions to Kings of War? I know there's been a couple of guys in my shop that have been asking about whether or not you'd be releasing sort of like a Hobbit army or anything like that as an actual range.
There we are. I definitely say watch this space. I definitely say don't go and start buying Hobbits.
Yeah.
I'd say just hold your horses just a few more months. One of the things we're doing, what 3rd edition gave us a chance to do again, was to look at where we wanted to go with Kings of War, what armies we wanted to do, what plastics we wanted to do. And what was quite nice is we could decide that, and then in the past we'd take it to Kickstarter, and we'd then have to just chunk on, deliver all of that, very, very quickly, and it all got to arrive and then be shipped out. And it was such a logistical process as opposed to an enjoyable hobby process that people could come along with you.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice having got Kings of War now to the stage where it's got its own global audience and people are happy with what we're doing, that we can just. So I think Salamanders are just around the corner. There's Ratkin coming out, literally on Monday. They're starting for Vanguard, and then they'll be coming out for Kings of War next month. So yeah, we're really getting to do those armies and build those armies up and build that narrative up. So yes, if they're asking you about hobbits, I would say watch this space, and in a not too distant future, they may be very, very happy with first breakfast, second breakfast, early lunch, late lunch.
Yeah, well, but they definitely will be, because they're all for that. So
yeah, no, and we kind of dropped it out of that other army, out to the kind of Kings of Men to give it its own space to start developing. So, yeah.
Oh no, I was going to say, so with Kings of War and Armada, are you looking to sort of match the races with their own fleets? So is every race going to get its own fleet, or not?
Largely yes, but not slavishly.
Right.
So when there's a good story to be told, then that's the next one we do.
Yeah.
There's a running battle about whether the Trident Realm should have one, because there's a few of us that think it should, because we think it'd be great. Turtles popping up with weapons platforms and harpoon guns.
Yeah.
And then Matt Gilbert at the moment is being a grumpy old, games designer who's saying, well, it makes no sense. They just get all the whales to come up and eat everyone's fleets. You say, well, if they did that, no one else would ever sail, would they? So that doesn't stand to reason. Shut up. Whales are too stupid to pay attention to the instructions, and there's only certain creatures that you could actually take into battle and don't just go completely crazy. And anyway, it's fantasy, so shut up. We can make it up.
Yeah.
So there's those kinds of conditions. Elves are very big on the naval front, so wouldn't be at all surprised if they came up. So yeah, on the whole, and it also gives us a chance. So coming out next month is the Empire of Dust.
Yeah.
Which actually we kind of did as a conversions of our plastic into, with some metal conversions, which is what I call a halfway house release. It's not the full, we've not really taken the IP and made it our own.
Yeah.
As we now just have with the Ratkin.
Yeah.
That's when we built our own backstory. They've got their own spin. They're no longer a kind of, if you've got one of these armies, feel free to play it. They're now ours. We've decided what we're doing with them. And when we sculpt the plastic, we're at the races.
Yeah. Yeah. So you really take them.
We did that with these. We take them in our own direction. And, once we do the plastic, I've always said to people, if you've got an import army, that's fine as they get you by. But we reserve the right to write the rules we want to write.
Yeah.
And if that means your army is redundant, tough, basically.
Yeah.
We gave you a way in. You've tried the game. Hopefully, you'll want to add the units we want you to add. So, for example, as you've done with your dwarfs, if you're going to insist on no cavalry in your dwarf army because they're not available from anywhere else, well, you might struggle because they're one of the top units, because they're, they've got a great story now. They are nutters that go and ride around on their brocks.
Yeah.
It's a very unbelievable thing to do. And so what became out of the kind of Berserk, they very much took on their own life, and now they've got their own character, and they're the crazy guys that ride around. So it's coming its own way, and that's nice. So Empire of Dust, we'd half done it, but actually when we came to ships, we said they look awesome. There's been quite a lot of the kind of wet undead zombies on boats and Pirates of the Caribbean, so we felt that had kind of been done, but no one had done the dry undead.
Yeah.
On sea, and so then we did those first instead of our regular ones. We did the new, and boy, they look fantastic. They come out next month, but by far and away, these have had the most comments and the most, can't wait for those, and the way that the magic works and everything else, just brilliant.
Yeah, I've noticed myself. I've been getting a few messages about. That's where, because basically what happened before I started this with you, I put some messages out to the Grumpy Pony community and said, "Is there anything you want me to ask Ronnie?" And I had a few people saying, "Empire of Dust, can you talk about that a little bit?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course."
So they look great. They've got their own play style, and one of the things we did do with the game is the first 4 fleets are very different. You've got your dwarfs, solid, slow, not sail powered, heavily armored, heavily fought out, but very not easy to maneuver. Orcs, get in there and grapple. Come here, sunshine. Going to get in and get rough and tumble with you. And then the Basileans, classic human, all round, solid at everything, not expert at any one thing. And then you've got your very magicked up Empire of Dust.
Yeah.
Which also has some rowing, so they have a bit more control, tight control, but a little bit fragile. So a really, really great looking and good fun to play army.
Yeah. So with the Armada Fleets, I know there's going to be extra large ships as well, isn't there?
Yeah. So we're getting everybody going with getting 4 fleets out. So then there's kind of good 4 different flavors to get started, which we think is important. Get some nice, and for us, that's quite a lot of sculpting, certainly a lot of casting.
Yeah.
To get very quickly to kind of critical mass. I don't think 2 armies is enough to give people enough choice to play something they want.
Yeah, having that sort of range for people who say, there's so many different play styles of different people, and you've got to sort of try and at least cater to a few of them, I think. Yeah.
If you get out to 4, if you might, there's one of them that should play something like how you like to play.
Yeah.
There's a bit of everything, a bit heavier, a bit lighter, a bit more agile, a bit less. Okay. If you play all 4 of those and you don't like it, you probably just don't like the game.
Right.
Put it that way. But if you pick what you like, but then actually it's about making sure there's somewhere else to go. And these big ships really do change the game. They move it on to the next level. It's adding kind of cavalry or artillery to a game that currently is only cavalry and infantry.
Yeah.
And suddenly artillery is turning up. Probably cavalry, I would say, more. At the moment, you've kind of got your artillery and you've got your infantry. You've got your ships of the line and your other little small things that can do fun stuff, different stuff. But they have their own weaknesses. They can get blown out the water quite easily. Suddenly, you've got this monster that comes along. Monsters and cavalry.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to think about that now.
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
all 4 fleets will get 1 each.
So one.
Yeah,
right.
1 XL. But I think in most cases, you can build it 2 different ways.
Okay.
So there's generally, I think the Dwarf fleet actually is the one that doesn't. I think their main hero ship is one of the medium-sized, one of the large, which is the one that you can build the other way. But the other 3, the XL, often comes with 2 fore and aft cabins and different noses. And you can either build it as a cruiser class or living legend named ship.
Yeah.
Which could be.
So it's almost like a hero character.
Yeah, 1 second. Yes, exactly. It is a hero character. Yes. It's a conversion.
So, what was I wanted to ask you next? So, I know you mentioned earlier a little bit about the Walking Dead and things like that, and you've got you've had the Walking Dead. I thought did really well. I think I got for the shop. I think we went and got a whole range of that when we first opened. Yeah. And and it did really well. And you've got Hellboy as well. What's the plan with the license stuff? Is that something you're going to continue doing? Are you going to be increasing that, or? Yeah,
we do them. But at the same time, someone's left me a voicemail, so we do them, and but we do licenses we really, really like and we want to live with for a while.
Yeah.
And we think has some kind of resonance with our gaming community. So why did I really like The Walking Dead? Which I still do. I was going to show him as my, seasons 5 and 6 of The Walking Dead. Still, I just love it. It's a really great game. But I'll tell you what I like about it. Most licenses that you get have the goodies and the baddies.
Yeah.
And there's not much else. And therefore, you don't get that variety that we were talking about. Like, within 3 months of launch, we've got 4 fleets out, 4 different play styles. You got different choice. So when you already got goodies and baddies, there isn't that variety to make an interesting war game.
Yeah.
What The Walking Dead had was actually goodies in 3 phases, which is, young Atlanta Rick at Alexandria,
Yeah.
Rick in prison outfit. So you can actually make the goodies different, and they keep changing because you get killing them off. Here's Tyrese, here's Michonne, here's Maggie. So you've got progression through with a real change. You've got the Governor, you've got the Whisperers, you've got Negan, you've got the Kingdom, you've got Hilltop with a variety of leaders. So all of a sudden, you really have got what you need to make an interesting war game. Skirmish war game, but war game nonetheless. And on top of that, most dangerous bloody things on the battlefield are the bloody walkers that are walking around. Fighting over some trees and trying to grab some prize, some loot. You've got to think about these bloody things that turn up and bite you. If you get in a rumble with 3 or 4 of them, you're dead.
Well, I mean, mind you, if you say that, you haven't played against my wife, because I think she's the most dangerous person on that table when we play that. That's how I sort of introduced her to like tabletop games as well. And the first thing she asked me was, "Can I double cross you?" And that's just like, right, well, that's not really the point, but yeah, I suppose you could.
Here's the objective. Let's just go over one more time.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, I played my at the time 11 and a half. We were play testing the new Call to Arms, the skirmish version, which I quite like, that kind of war band, war gamey bit.
Yeah.
And I was testing it out with him, and we set it all up. And I thought, well, I'll just give him I'm playing for a while. I'll give him a turn or 2 to get into it, and then off we go. And I'll just stay. And I was a little bit cautious, and I was messing around a bit. And he got pop, bump, pop, bump. And I looked at the end of the first, and I thought, I better get my game on here. I think first turn, I thought, actually, he's doing all right there. Now I'm just going to get stuck in. By the end of the second turn, I thought, I really have to raise my game quite a lot here. And by the third turn, I thought, I think I'm whooped. He's absolutely going to caramelise me. Plowed straight through, won the game. They said, all right, Dad, I'm off to play Xbox now. See you, thanks. I was like, oh, okay. So he owned me. He absolutely owned me.
Brilliant. Yeah, I often find that's the way. As soon as I introduce someone else to a game, they just seem to immediately know it better than me.
Yeah. Bosh. Oh, all right.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I put the question out to some of the people in the Grumpy Pony community for things that they wanted to ask you directly.
Sure.
The first one was, is Ronnie responsible for the end of the world because he finished his dwarves?
Yeah, that's why. That's exactly why there's a few more units on here. Because we all know the day you say, I've painted all my figures, I've painted everything I need to paint, the world ends. And I thought, I'm bloody close to finish my Dwarf Army here. Global pandemic, so I better start a few more units.
Get some more on there, yeah.
Yeah, just to save the world. Ronnie saves the world by saying no, I need to paint. But very good question.
Yeah. The other ones were, how is Mr. Rinky Dink Cumbersome?
Squeeze me. Rinky Dink Cumbersome. Ronnie the Bard or something. He should not be named.
Is it right? And then the last one was, are you going to be doing any more virtual open days?
Yes. And I think one of the things we've learned from all of this is if you live within 100 miles of Nottingham, our open days are fantastic. But we have a global audience.
Yeah.
And we had more people at a virtual open day than we did at our open day.
Yeah.
And, I certainly, at the very least, think, so we've already called our next open day in April, and it's virtual. I think we've named it, 4th of April, I think it is, because the UK will be just in lockdown or coming out of lockdown. But the idea of getting 100 people in a very enclosed, small space isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, but what we will for sure do, even when we start doing them again, because I do like doing them, I do think it's also great for the staff, because at the moment, in customer service, all you hear is when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Something's not shipped or something's not happened, or people stand there packing boxes or making resin, but they never actually see the joy that
Yeah.
our products bring. And I used to remember that, you know, when I was at GW and all that. So you have to remember why we do it. We're A, lucky, B, we work hard, and C, what we do really cheers people up. And they
Well,
really, really
exactly.
enjoy
Like
it.
the virtual, these virtual open days and stuff. It's I think especially now because people are more used to seeing things online, like doing Zoom and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I know personally that when we know there's a virtual open day coming up, everyone's messaging each other. Are we all gonna get on a Zoom call and let's still watch it together? We'll stream it at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's another way to just enjoy collectively.
Correct. Came across when we did that big battle, that big Kings of War battle. People just loved hanging around for that day, listening to the banter. None of us knew the bloody rules, and we were all cheating left, right, and centre. And obviously, the Dwarfs won. Rob Birmingham shut his face. The goblins were rubbish. It doesn't make a victory. But yeah, it was kind of like hanging around with your mates for a bit. Just seeing some toy soldiers being pushed in, some dice, but it's about that. And so. Yeah, I'd love to get them going again, but we'll keep doing them virtually, and we'll do more and more virtually because that's how we talk, and our audience is global. And even if we have an open day, we'll have a room where we might go in the room and talk to everybody, but then the same person will go next door and do the interview next door, and we'll have a scrolling live feed all day. And Rob may well compare that, and we'll run that out so that we talk to who can get there and also those that can't.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea, and it just keeps everyone involved as well. Like so. Yeah. I really enjoy them. I know all my friends really enjoy them. So, yeah, it's great to hear that you're going to carry on.
Okay. And I think 4th of April, I'm fairly sure. I can check now, should I? I think we've got our next one coming up. April. Must have made it up. No, I totally missed it or made it up or anything else. But I'll email you the date afterwards, and then you can put it up in the
chat.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll make sure everyone knows. Yeah, and the last question from me is, what are you looking forward to in 2021?
Well, we've got a lovely release schedule. We're supporting Armada every couple of months. They've got something, but in most months, it's not the only thing.
Yeah.
So we've got Ratkin, Vanguard, and Kings of War coming out, Salamanders. And the early part of the year, we're leaning quite into between Armada and those fantasy armies. We're doing quite a big slug for fantasy. Walking Dead may well be having the Kingdom this year.
Ooh.
So suddenly we'll be really introducing cavalry.
Yeah.
And that whole story arc as well. So there'll be good fun there. Hopefully I'm going to chat to them in the next few weeks, and hopefully a really interesting faction later on. So if they let us do that, that'd be cool. And last but not least, I tell you what I am really looking forward to, outside of the releases, is getting back out and meeting people, going to stores, going to tournaments, going to events, having our actual open days, seeing people gaming, seeing those live streams. Really looking forward to that, because I think it's just a very important part of our hobby. We don't do as much. We do the painting and the talking and everything else, but I think if it doesn't get done, you start to miss it.
Yeah, it feels like a core part of the hobby is sort of missing at the moment, and it'd be good to get back to that.
Yeah, one-handed clapping, isn't it?
Yeah. No, that's brilliant, Ronnie. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting away.
There we go. So yeah, as you can tell, we just lost the last bit of audio at the end when I was saying goodbye to Ronnie there. But what an absolute gentleman. It was just great to chat to him, and just a really enjoyable chat. And it's really great to chat to people that are so passionate about about this hobby and things like that. So so obviously apologies for the little technical error at the end there, so it was a bit of an abrupt ending, but that was our latest episode. Thanks so much for taking the time to get all the way through to the end and listen to this podcast. It's a great support for our little community in the middle of Kent. So again, thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to us, and I hope to see you again next week.